Captain Lee Tae-ho stood on the bridge of the Hanbit, watching the massive alien fleet through the main screen. Hundreds of ships floated in space like angry metal beasts. Each one was 3 times bigger than his own vessel. Their dark hulls gleamed with weapon ports and shield generators. "Captain, they are sending another message," said Lieutenant Park So-young from her communication station. Her voice stayed calm, but Lee could see the worry in her eyes. "Put it through," Lee replied. The screen changed to show a tall, scaled creature with red eyes. Its mouth full of sharp teeth opened to speak. "Human vessel, I am Supreme Commander Vextar of the Draknari Imperial Navy. You have entered Coalition space without permission. This is your final warning." Lee straightened his uniform and stepped forward. "This is Captain Lee Tae-ho of the Earth vessel Hanbit. We come in peace, seeking diplomatic contact with your coalition." Vextar's laugh sounded like metal scraping. "Stone. Peace? You primitive creatures dare to demand anything from us? We have ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years. Your entire species is nothing but insects to us." Behind Vextar, other alien figures appeared on the screen. Lee recognized them from the intelligence files Earth had gathered over the years. The blue-skinned Zenthari with their large heads. The floating gas bag creatures called Vorthak. The machine-like Nexus beings with glowing optical sensors. "You will submit to Coalition authority," Vextar continued. "Your world will become a vassal state. Your people will serve our empire. You have 72 hours to accept these terms. If you refuse, we will destroy your ship and then visit your pathetic planet." The communication ended. The bridge fell silent, except for the soft humming of the ship's systems. "Sir," said Commander Yoon Jae-sung from the tactical station, "I count 1,043 enemy vessels. They have us surrounded completely. Their weapons are charging." Lee nodded slowly. He walked to his captain's chair and sat down. "Send a message to Earth. Tell them we need those 72 hours to discuss their offer." "Should I use the regular communication array?" asked Park So-young. "No. Use the quantum link. Make sure it looks like a normal transmission to them." Park's fingers moved across her controls. Within seconds, she nodded. "Message sent, sir. Earth Command confirms receipt." Lee looked around at his crew. These men and women had trained for this moment for years. They knew what was really happening. The Hanbit was not just a diplomatic ship. It was something much more important. "Lieutenant Kim Min-ho, begin passive scans of their fleet," Lee ordered. "I want to know everything about their ships, weapons, and formation patterns." "Already started, sir," Kim replied from his science station. "The scanning array is working perfectly. They have no idea we are gathering this much data." Lee smiled slightly. The aliens thought they were so superior. They looked at the small human ship and saw weakness. They had no idea what Earth had been doing for the past 50 years. On the screen, the alien fleet moved into attack formation. The massive Draknari dreadnoughts took position at the front. Their weapon ports glowed with deadly energy. Behind them, the smaller but faster Zenthari cruisers spread out like a net. The Vorthak command ships floated in the center, protected by their allies. "Captain," said Yoon Jae-sung, "they are testing our shields with low-power scans. They want to see how strong our defenses are." "Let them scan," Lee replied. "Make sure they only see what we want them to see." The Hanbit had special systems that could hide its true capabilities. To the aliens, it looked like a simple exploration vessel. With basic weapons and shields, they could not detect the advanced technology hidden inside its hull. Hours passed. The alien fleet waited like patient predators. More ships arrived from other sectors. Lee watched their numbers grow larger and larger. Soon, there were over 1,500 enemy vessels surrounding his single ship. "Sir," said Park So-young, "we are receiving transmissions from the alien fleet. They are discussing us." "What are they saying?" "They are laughing, sir. They think this is a joke. One commander said that humans must be the stupidest species in the galaxy to send only one ship." Lee felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. "Let them laugh. They would not be laughing much longer." "Captain," said Kim Min-ho, "I have completed the detailed scans. We now have complete data on all ship types, weapon systems, shield frequencies, and command structures. This information will be very valuable." "Excellent," Continue monitoring their communications. I want to know everything they are planning. The next day, more alien ships arrived. The Coalition was clearly taking no chances. They brought their most powerful vessels from across the sector. Massive carriers launched fighter squadrons that buzzed around the human ship like angry insects. Lee received reports from his crew throughout the day. The aliens were confident and careless. They shared tactical information over open channels. They discussed their battle plans without proper encryption. They treated this as a training exercise rather than a real threat. They are making this too easy, muttered Yoon Jae-sung. Good, Lee replied. Overconfidence has destroyed many empires throughout history. On the second day, Supreme Commander Vextar appeared on the screen again. This time, he was not alone. Behind him stood representatives from all the major coalition species. Human. Captain, Vextar said, your time grows short. Have you made your decision? We are still discussing the matter with our government, Lee replied politely. These are important decisions that cannot be made quickly. Important? Laughed a Zenthari admiral. You have one small ship against our mighty fleet. What is there to discuss? Surrender now, and we might let your people live as slaves. Kept his face calm. We appreciate your patience. We will have an answer for you soon. After the transmission ended, Lee turned to his crew. Status report on Earth's preparations? All fleets report ready, sir, said Park So-young. They are waiting for your signal. Good. Kim Min-ho, have you identified their command ship? Yes, sir. The Draknari Super Dreadnought Conquest of Stars. It is the largest vessel in their fleet. All tactical communications flow through it. Lee nodded. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Earth had spent decades preparing for first contact with alien civilizations. They had expected hostility and prepared accordingly. The third day arrived with increased alien activity. More ships jumped into the system. Fighter patrols increased. The Coalition was growing impatient and wanted to show their overwhelming force. Captain, said Yoon Jae-sung, they are bringing in planet-killer weapons. Those are Vorthak's siege ships capable of destroying entire worlds. Lee felt a chill. These aliens were serious about their threats. If Earth had really sent only one ship with peaceful intentions, humanity would be facing extinction. Sir, said Park So-young, final transmission from Supreme Commander Vextar. The alien appeared on screen one last time. His red eyes gleamed with anticipation. Human Captain, your 72 hours are over. What is your answer? Lee stood up slowly. He straightened his uniform and looked directly at the alien commander. Supreme Commander Vextar, I have discussed your offer with my government. And? Earth's answer is no. We refuse your terms. Vexatar's mouth opened in surprise, then twisted into a cruel smile. Then you have chosen death. Your ship will be destroyed and your world will burn. I understand your position, Lee said calmly. However, I think there has been a misunderstanding. What misunderstanding? Lee smiled for the first time since the confrontation began. You seem to think that Earth sent only one ship. The transmission ended, leaving Vextar staring at a blank screen. Around the handbit, the massive alien fleet began to move forward, weapons charging for the final attack. Lee turned to his crew. Battle stations. It is time to show them what humans can really do. 50 years earlier on Earth, a young scientist named Kim Dong-jun stood in an underground facility beneath the mountains of South Korea. Above him, the world continued its daily life, unaware of the discovery that would change everything. Are you certain about this signal? Asked Dr. Choi Mi-ran, the head of the Deep Space Research Project. She was only 30 years old, but already one of Earth's top experts on radio astronomy. Kim nodded, pointing at the data on his screen. The pattern is too complex to be natural. This is definitely artificial communication from another star system, and there is more. He switched to another display. I have been tracking similar signals from at least 12 different directions. There is a whole network of civilizations out there, and they have been talking to each other for a very long time. Dr. Choi felt her heart race. Humanity was not alone in the universe. But as she studied the data more carefully, her excitement turned to worry. Kim, look at this signal strength. These civilizations have technology far beyond ours. If they discover Earth before we are ready, they could destroy us easily, Kim finished. That is why we need to prepare. That meeting led to the creation of the most secret project in human history. The Earth Defense Initiative was hidden from the public and most governments. Only a small group of scientists, engineers, and military leaders knew about it. Over the following decades, they worked in hidden facilities around the world. They studied the alien communications and learned about galactic politics. They discovered that space was controlled by something called the Coalition, a group of powerful alien empires that had ruled for thousands of years. The Coalition was not peaceful. The intercepted messages spoke of conquered worlds, enslaved species, and destroyed civilizations. Any new species that entered space was given a simple choice: submit or die. Kim Dong-jun, now promoted to admiral, stood in the main command center of the Earth Defense Initiative. The facility was built 5 kilometers underground in the Swiss Alps. Around him, hundreds of scientists and engineers worked on humanity's greatest secret. "Admiral," said Dr. Choi Mi-ran, now the head of Advanced Weapons Research, "the new stealth systems are working perfectly. Our ships can hide from any known alien detection method." Kim nodded. "What about the weapons?" "Even better than we hoped. Our plasma cannons have 3 times the power of anything the Coalition uses. The shield generators can stop their strongest attacks, and the new engines make our ships twice as fast as theirs." Kim walked to the main display screen. It showed Earth's hidden fleet spread across the outer solar system. To any observer, space around Earth looked empty. But hidden in asteroid fields and behind moons, 500 warships waited in perfect concealment. "How long before we can begin Phase 2? Kim asked. Captain Yoon Jae-sung approached from the communications center. He was the commander of the Stealth Reconnaissance Division. "Admiral, our scout ships have been watching Coalition space for 10 years. We know the locations of their major fleets, their supply routes, and their command structures. Any signs that they have detected us?" "None, sir. They think Earth is just another primitive world with radio signals. They have no idea we have been listening to them for 50 years. Kim smiled grimly. The Coalition's arrogance was their weakness. They had been the strongest power in the galaxy for so long that they never imagined a new species could threaten them. Dr. Choi joined them at the display. "Admiral, we have another advantage. Our computers have been analyzing their battle tactics for decades. We know how they fight, how they think, how they make decisions. Show me." The display changed to show a simulation of a typical Coalition battle. Kim watched as the alien fleets moved in predictable patterns. They relied on overwhelming numbers and brute force. They had no experience fighting an enemy with superior technology. They always attack in the same way, Dr. Choi explained. The Draknari dreadnoughts charge forward to break enemy lines. The Zenthari cruisers spread out to surround the enemy. The Vorthak command ships stay in the back where they think they are safe. And they never change these tactics? Never. They have been successful for so long that they see no reason to adapt. Kim studied the simulation carefully. What about their alliance? How strong is it? Captain Yoon pulled up another display. Not as strong as they pretend, sir. The different species hate each other. They only work together because they fear rebellion more than they hate their allies. That gives us opportunities. Yes, sir. If we can prove that humans are a serious threat, some Coalition members might try to make separate peace deals. Kim nodded. Everything was proceeding according to the long-term plan. Earth had spent 50 years preparing for this moment. They had built the most advanced fleet in the galaxy. They had studied their enemies until they knew them better than the aliens knew themselves. "Admiral," said Dr. Choi, "there is one more thing. The new diplomatic ship is ready." Kim turned to look at her. "The Hanbit?" "Yes, sir. From the outside, it looks like a simple exploration vessel. But inside, it has the most advanced scanning equipment we have ever built. It can gather complete intelligence on any fleet it encounters." "And Captain Lee Tae-ho understands his mission?" "Completely. He will pose as a peaceful explorer while secretly gathering the data we need for the final phase." Kim walked to another part of the command center. Here, technicians monitored Coalition. Communications in real time. The aliens had no idea that humans had broken all their codes decades ago. "What are they saying about Earth?" Kim asked the lead technician. "They barely notice us, sir. To them, we are just another primitive world that will be easy to conquer when they get around to it." "Perfect. Let them think that. Kim looked around the vast underground facility. Thousands of people had worked their entire lives for this moment. They had sacrificed everything to give humanity a chance against impossible odds. "Sir," said Captain Yoon, "the Coalition has noticed our first colony ship. They are sending a fleet to investigate. How large? Over 1,000 ships, sir. They want to make an impressive show of force." Kim felt his pulse quicken. This was it. The moment they had prepared for since he was a young scientist discovering alien signals. "Send the signal to Captain Lee. Tell him to begin the mission." "Yes, sir." Kim watched as the message was sent through quantum communication to the Hanbit. In a few hours, the ship would enter Coalition space and make first contact with alien civilizations. "Admiral," said Dr. Choi, "are you certain about this plan? We are risking everything on one ship." Kim looked at her with confidence. "The Coalition expects humans to be weak and stupid. Captain Lee will give them exactly what they expect to see. Meanwhile, he will gather the intelligence we need to complete our preparations. And if something goes wrong, then we activate all 10 battle fleets and rescue him." Dr. Choi's eyes widened. "All 10? I thought we were only planning to use 3 fleets for the first engagement." Kim smiled. "The Coalition thinks they are dealing with a primitive species that barely has spaceflight. When they see one human ship, they will bring everything they have to destroy it. That is exactly what we want. Because then we can study their entire military structure in one battle." "Exactly. And when we reveal our true strength, the psychological impact will be devastating. They will realize that Earth has been planning this for decades." Kim turned back to the main display. It now showed the positions of Earth's hidden fleets. 10 massive battle groups, each one larger and more powerful than anything the Coalition had ever faced. "How long until the fleets are in position?" Kim asked. 18 hours, sir," replied Captain Yoon. "They will jump to the rendezvous point as soon as Captain Lee gives the signal." Kim nodded. Everything was ready. 50 years of preparation had led to this moment. The Coalition thought they were about to destroy a helpless human ship. Instead, they were about to discover that humanity was far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. "Gentlemen, ladies," Kim said to his staff, "we are about to change the balance of power in the galaxy. For 50 years, we have watched and learned and prepared. Now it is time to show the universe what humans can do when we work together." The command center fell silent as everyone focused on their tasks. On screens around the room, they could see the Coalition fleet moving toward the Humbit. The aliens were confident and careless, just as Earth had predicted. Soon, that confidence would be shattered forever. Supreme Commander Vextar stared at the blank communication screen where the human captain had just disappeared. Around him on the bridge of the Conquest of Stars, his officers waited for orders. "Did that primitive just refuse our generous offer?" asked Admiral Zenthkar, a blue-skinned Zenthari with large black eyes. "It appears so," Vextar replied, his scaled face showing amusement. "These humans are even more stupid than we thought." The Vorthak fleet commander, a floating gas bag creature named Hovlex, drifted closer to the command station. "Perhaps they do not understand the situation. Shall we demonstrate our power?" Vextar's mouth opened in a sharp-toothed grin. "An excellent idea. Order all ships to attack formation. We will destroy their pathetic vessel in front of the entire galaxy. Let this be a lesson to any other primitive species that thinks they can challenge the Coalition." Across the massive alien fleet, weapon systems came online. The Draknari dreadnoughts moved forward like enormous predators. Their dark hulls bristled with plasma cannons and missile launchers. Behind them, the smaller but faster Zenthari cruisers spread out in a wide circle. On the bridge of the Hanbit, Captain Lee Tae-ho watched the alien fleet advance. His crew worked calmly at their stations, showing no signs of fear. "Captain," said Lieutenant Park So-young, "they are charging weapons. I count over 3,000 missile launchers and 800 heavy plasma cannons aimed at us." "Understood," Lee replied. "Commander Yoon, begin the revelation sequence." "Yes, sir," said Commander Yoon Jae-sung from the tactical station. His fingers moved across his control panel with practiced ease. Throughout the Hanbit, hidden systems came online. The ship's outer hull began to shift and change. Panels slid open to reveal weapon ports that had been invisible moments before. The simple-looking exploration vessel transformed into something far more dangerous. "What in the void is that thing doing?" gasped Admiral Zenthkar as he watched the human ship change on his screen. Before Vexitar could answer, the Hanbit opened fire. Beams of pure energy lanced out from the human ship. They were unlike anything the Coalition had ever seen. The plasma was brighter and more focused than their own weapons. Each shot hit its target with impossible accuracy. The first Draknari dreadnought to enter weapon range suddenly found its shields failing. The human plasma beam cut through the alien ship's defenses like they were made of paper. But instead of destroying the massive vessel, the beam precisely targeted its weapon systems and engines. "Impossible!" roared Vextar. "No single ship can penetrate Draknari battle shields!" The Hanbit spun gracefully in space, its weapons tracking multiple targets at once. More energy beams reached out to touch the advancing alien ships. One by one, the Coalition vessels found themselves helpless as their weapons and engines were destroyed with surgical precision. "Sir," called the Zenthari tactical officer, "the human ship is not trying to destroy us. They are disabling our vessels." Vextar stared at the display in shock. In less than 5 minutes, the Hanbit had disabled 47 Coalition ships without destroying a single one. The precision required for such an attack was beyond anything he had thought possible. "All ships, concentrate fire on the human vessel," Vextar ordered. "Destroy it now!" Hundreds of weapons fired at the Hanbit simultaneously, the space around the human ship filled with energy beams and missiles. Any normal vessel would have been vaporized instantly, but the human ship's shields held. More than held, they seemed to absorb the incoming attacks and grow stronger. "Captain," said Lieutenant Kim Min-ho from his science station, "their weapons are actually charging our shield generators. This is exactly what our engineers predicted." Lee nodded. Earth's scientists had studied Coalition weapons for decades. They had designed their shields specifically to counter alien technology. The Hanbit continued its deadly dance through space. More Coalition ships fell silent as their systems were precisely targeted and disabled. The human vessel moved with impossible grace, avoiding incoming fire while delivering devastating attacks. "Sir," reported Commander Yoon, "I have disabled 312 enemy vessels. No casualties on either side." "Excellent," Lee replied. "Continue the demonstration." On the Coalition command ship, panic was beginning to spread. Fleet Commander Havlex floated frantically around the bridge. "How is one small ship defeating our entire fleet?" "It is impossible," muttered Admiral Zenthkar. "Our intelligence said humans barely had spaceflight capability." Vextar watched in growing horror as more of his ships were disabled. The human vessel was not just superior to Coalition technology, it was generations ahead of anything they had ever encountered. "Sir," called his communications officer, "the human ship is sending a transmission." "Put it through," Vextar ordered, his voice tight with anger and fear. Captain Lee appeared on the screen again. Behind him, his bridge crew worked calmly at their stations. They showed no signs of stress despite being outnumbered over 1,000 to 1. "Supreme Commander Vexitar," Lee said politely, "I hope this demonstration has clarified the situation." "What? What are you?" Vexitar asked, his usual arrogance completely gone. "I am Captain Lee Tae-ho of the Earth Defense Force," Lee replied. "This is the exploration vessel Hanbit, operating at approximately 30% of its combat capability." The bridge of the Coalition command ship fell silent. 30%? This devastating display of power was less than half of what the human ship could do? "That is impossible," whispered Admiral Zenthkar. Lee heard the comment and smiled slightly. "I understand your confusion. You have ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years. You have never encountered serious resistance. But Earth has been preparing for this meeting for a very long time." "Preparing how?" Vexitar demanded. "We have been listening to your communications for 50 years, Lee explained calmly. "We know your technology, your tactics, your politics. We know everything about the Coalition." The alien stared at him in shock. 50 years. That meant humans had been planning this encounter since before most of the Coalition leaders were born. "You see," Lee continued, "Earth learned long ago that the galaxy is a dangerous place. So we decided to make sure we would be ready when we finally met our neighbors." On his tactical display, Commander Yoon watched the Coalition fleet struggle to reorganize. Many ships were trying to retreat, but their engines had been disabled. Others continued firing uselessly at the Hanbit, their weapons having no effect on the human ship's advanced shields. "Captain," said Lieutenant Park So-young, "I am receiving hundreds of communications from the alien fleet. Most of them are asking for mercy." "Open a channel to the entire coalition fleet," Lee ordered. When the communication was established, Lee addressed all the alien ships at once. "Attention, coalition forces. This engagement will now end. You have seen what one human ship can do. I suggest you reconsider your attitude toward Earth." "One ship?" Vextar found his voice again. "You expect us to believe that Earth has only sent one vessel?" Lee's smile became wider. "Oh no, Supreme Commander. Earth has sent only one ship for this initial contact, but if you choose to continue hostilities..." He paused, letting the implications sink in. "If you continue this aggression, you will discover that Earth has been very busy for the past 50 years. The Hanbit is not a warship, Supreme Commander. It is an exploration vessel with light defensive armament." The blood drained from Vextar's scaled face. If this was just an exploration ship with light weapons, what would a real human warship be capable of? "I am transmitting our formal diplomatic proposals to your fleet," Lee announced. "Earth wishes to establish peaceful relations with all civilized species. We hope you will consider our offer carefully." The transmission ended, leaving the coalition fleet in stunned silence. On the Hanbit, Lee turned to his crew. "Status report." "All primary objectives achieved, sir," reported Commander Yoon. "We have disabled 418 enemy vessels without causing a single casualty. All intelligence gathering systems are functioning perfectly." "Good work, everyone," Lee said. "Now we wait to see how they respond." Lieutenant Kim Min-ho looked up from his science station. "Captain, I am detecting massive quantum communication bursts from the coalition fleet. They are calling for reinforcements from every sector." Lee nodded. This was exactly what Earth had predicted. The coalition's pride would not allow them to retreat after being humiliated by a single human ship. They would bring everything they had to destroy the Hanbit, which was exactly what Earth wanted them to do. "Send a message to Admiral Kim," Lee ordered. "Tell him the coalition is taking the bait. They will commit their entire military to this system." "Message sent, sir," confirmed Lieutenant Park. Lee looked out at the disabled alien ships floating around his vessel. Soon, this system would be filled with thousands more coalition warships. The aliens thought they were planning humanity's destruction. Instead, they were walking into the largest trap in galactic history. The quantum communication networks across coalition space burned with urgent messages. From the core worlds to the frontier outposts, every military commander received the same shocking report. A single human ship had disabled nearly 500. Coalition vessels, Admiral Kreshetok of the Draknari Third Fleet read the message 3 times before he could believe it. "Impossible," he growled, his scaled hands crushing the datapad. "No primitive species could defeat our warriors." But the evidence was undeniable. Video recordings showed the human ship moving through the coalition fleet like a predator among prey. Its weapons cut through their strongest shields. Its defenses ignored their most powerful attacks. Within hours, reinforcements began jumping into the system where the Hanbit waited. The Zenthari Second Armada arrived first, their sleek blue ships emerging from hyperspace in perfect formation. Then came the Vorthak War Council, massive bioships filled with warrior drones. The machine fleets of the Nexus Collective followed, their geometric vessels calculating optimal attack patterns. Supreme Commander Vextar watched from his damaged command ship as more allies arrived. His fleet had grown from 1,000 ships to over 5,000. It was the largest military force the coalition had assembled in centuries. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "the human ship has made no aggressive moves. It is simply waiting." Vextar studied the display. The small, human vessel floated calmly in the center of the system, surrounded by thousands of disabled coalition ships. It showed no signs of fear or concern. "What are they waiting for?" muttered Admiral Zenthkar. Fleet Commander Havlex drifted closer to the command station. "Perhaps they are calling for help, but what help could possibly arrive in time?" Vextar nodded. "Even if Earth had more ships, it would take weeks for reinforcements to travel from their home system. The coalition forces would destroy this impudent human vessel long before any help could arrive. "All fleets, prepare for final assault," Vextar ordered. "We will attack from all directions simultaneously. Not even their superior technology can withstand 5,000 ships." On the handbit, Captain Lee Tae-ho received the final report from his scanning systems. "Commander Yoon, do we have complete intelligence on all coalition forces?" "Yes, sir," replied Commander Yoon Jae-sung. "We now have detailed scans of every ship type, weapon system, and defensive capability in their military. The data has been transmitted to Earth Command." "Excellent." Lee activated the ship's communication system. "Lieutenant Park, send the activation signal." "Lieutenant Park." So Young's fingers moved across her console. "Signal sent, sir. Admiral Kim confirms receipt." Deep space around the solar system suddenly came alive, hidden behind asteroids, cloaked in the shadows of moons, and concealed in the emptiness between planets. The true Earth fleet began to move. Admiral Kim Dong-jun stood on the bridge of the flagship New Seoul, a massive dreadnought that dwarfed anything the coalition had ever built. Around him, his command staff prepared for the largest military operation in human history. "All fleets report ready, sir," announced Captain Shin Woo-jin from the tactical station. Kim looked at the display, showing Earth's hidden armada. 10 full battle fleets, each one containing 50 capital ships and hundreds of smaller vessels. 5,000 warships in total, all equipped with technology the coalition could not imagine. "Begin the jump sequence," Kim ordered. "Time to show our alien friends that Earth takes diplomacy very seriously." The first fleet to arrive was Admiral Yang Sung-min's fast attack group. 50 sleek destroyers appeared at the edge of the system in a flash of blue light. Their hulls gleamed with exotic alloys, and their weapon ports crackled with barely contained energy. "Sir," gasped the coalition sensor operator, "new contacts. 50 ships, unknown configuration." Before Vextar could respond, more fleets appeared. Admiral Han Min-ho's heavy assault group materialized in a different sector. Then came Admiral A. Bae-soo-jin's carrier division, their massive ships launching clouds of advanced fighters. "More contacts!" the sensor operator called out, his voice rising with panic. 200 ships! 400! Sir, I am reading over 1,000 new vessels!" But the arrivals were not finished. Fleet after fleet jumped into the system. Admiral Nam Yoonji's stealth squadron decloaked right next to the coalition rearguard. Admiral Ro Jinei's support group appeared with ships larger than space stations. "Impossible!" roared Vextar. "Where are they all coming from?" The space around the Hanbit filled with human warships. Each one was larger and more advanced than anything the coalition possessed. Their formations were perfect, their movements coordinated with machine precision. "Sir," whispered Admiral Zenthkar, "I count 5,000 human vessels. They outnumber us exactly." Fleet Commander Havlex floated in stunned silence. The human fleet stretched across the entire system, massive dreadnoughts that could destroy planets, carriers launching fighter squadrons beyond counting, weapons platforms bristling with unknown technology. 5,000 ships, repeated Vextar, in disbelief. How did they build 5,000 ships without us knowing? The answer came from Captain Lee, whose calm voice filled every coalition communication channel. "Supreme Commander Vextar, allow me to introduce the Earth Defense Force." On the main screen, Lee stood before a display showing the human fleet. Behind him, his bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. "For 50 years, Lee explained, Earth has been preparing for this moment. While you believed we were a primitive species, we were building the most advanced fleet in galactic history." Admiral Kim Dong-jun's voice joined the transmission from the flagship New Seoul. "I am Fleet Admiral Kim Dong-jun, Commander of Earth's military forces. We have been watching your coalition for 5 decades, learning your weaknesses, studying your technology." The coalition commanders stared at their screens in growing horror. The human ships were not just numerous, they were clearly superior to anything the coalition possessed. Their hulls seemed to absorb energy. Their weapons glowed with threatening power. "You have 2 choices," Admiral Kim continued. "You can surrender now and begin peaceful negotiations, or you can discover why Earth has spent 50 years building the galaxy's most powerful navy." Vextar looked around his bridge. His officers stared back with fear in their eyes. The coalition had ruled through superior numbers and technology for 3,000 years. Now they faced an enemy that surpassed them in both areas. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we are receiving surrender requests from 30% of our fleet. Many captains are asking permission to withdraw." Before Vextar could respond, Admiral Loktar of the Draknari 7th Legion cut into the communication channel. "We do not surrender to primitives," he roared. "All Draknari ships attack the humans. Death before dishonor." Several hundred Draknari vessels broke formation and charged toward the nearest human ships. Their plasma cannons fired continuously as they approached the Earth fleet. The human response was swift and decisive. Beams of impossible brightness reached out from the Earth ships. They struck the attacking Draknari vessels with such precision that each shot disabled specific systems without harming the crew. Within minutes, every attacking ship found itself helpless. Their weapons were destroyed, their engines disabled, their shields down. But their life support systems remained intact, and emergency beacons showed that all crew members were alive. "As you can see," Admiral Kim announced calmly, "Earth's weapons are designed for precision, not destruction. We prefer to capture enemies rather than kill them." This display of restraint while holding overwhelming power sent shockwaves through the coalition fleet. These humans could have destroyed the attacking ships easily. Instead, they chose mercy while demonstrating their complete superiority. "Sir," whispered Admiral Zenthkar to Vextar, "what are your orders?" Vextar stared at the vast human fleet surrounding his forces. 5,000 advanced warships, all commanded by a species that had been planning this encounter for 50 years. A species that showed mercy to enemies who had threatened to destroy their world. "Open a channel to the human admiral," Vextar said finally. Admiral Kim's face appeared on the screen. He was an older human with gray hair and calm eyes. Behind him, the bridge of the New Soul bustled with activity. "Supreme Commander," Kim said politely, "I believe we need to discuss new arrangements for this sector of space." Vextar felt the weight of 3,000 years of coalition dominance crashing down around him. "What? What do you want from us?" "Peace," Kim replied simply. "Earth wishes to join the galactic community as an equal partner. We hope you will consider our proposal for a new form of government based on cooperation rather than conquest." Around the system, the massive human fleet waited patiently. 5,000 ships that could have destroyed the coalition forces in minutes. Instead, they offered friendship to enemies who had come to destroy them. "We will consider your proposal," Vextar said slowly. "Excellent," Admiral Kim smiled. "Earth looks forward to working with all species toward a better future for the galaxy." As the transmission ended, Vexitar looked around his bridge one last time. The coalition, as they had known it, was finished. The age of human dominance had begun. But perhaps, he thought, that might not be such a terrible thing after all. The Coalition Emergency Council meeting took place aboard the massive space station Heart of Empire, the traditional neutral ground for interspecies negotiations. For the first time in 3,000 years, coalition leaders gathered not to plan conquest, but to discuss surrender. High Counselor Zethron of the Zenthari floated in his ceremonial chair, his large black eyes reflecting the holographic displays showing the human fleet. Around the circular chamber, representatives from every major coalition species argued in desperate voices. "We cannot simply give up 3 millennia of dominance," roared General Loktar, his Draknari battle armor scarred from his recent encounter with human weapons. "Our ancestors built this empire with blood and steel." Fleet Commander Havlex drifted near the chamber's center, his gas bag body pulsing with agitation. "And what good did that blood and steel do against human precision weapons? They disabled my entire battle group without harming a single crew member." Ambassador Park So-young sat quietly in the human observation section, watching the alien leaders debate. She had been promoted from her position on the Hanbit to serve as Earth's primary negotiator. The irony was not lost on her. She had once feared these same aliens, and now they feared humanity. "The situation is clear," announced High Counselor Zethron, calling for order. "Human technology surpasses ours by several generations. Their fleet outnumbers our combined forces. Most importantly, they have shown restraint when they could have shown destruction. Supreme Commander Vextar, his pride wounded but his intelligence intact, nodded slowly. They could have destroyed every ship in our fleet. Instead, they offered medical assistance to our wounded and supplies to our disabled vessels. The Nexus. Collective Representative, a machine intelligence designated Unit 7749, projected data into the center of the chamber. Analysis confirms human strategic planning spans 5 decades. Probability of successful resistance, 0.03%. But not all coalition leaders accepted these grim calculations. Admiral Kreshtok of the Draknari Third Fleet slammed his fist on the council table. I refuse to bow to these upstart mammals. We have ruled the galaxy since before their species discovered fire. General Loktar rose from his chair, his massive frame intimidating even to other Draknari. Kreshtok speaks truth. Better to die with honor than live as servants to primitives. Primitives? High Counselor Zethron's voice carried across the chamber. General, these primitives have been studying our civilizations for 50 years. They know our languages, our customs, our military tactics. They have outplanned and outprepared us at every level. Ambassador Park decided it was time to speak. She stood gracefully, her simple Earth diplomatic uniform contrasting sharply with the elaborate costumes worn by coalition leaders. Honored counselors, she said, her voice calm and clear. Earth does not wish to rule anyone. We seek partnership, not dominance. General Loktar turned his red eyes toward her. Pretty words from a species that just humiliated our finest warriors. Park nodded respectfully. General, your warriors fought bravely. That is why they are all still alive. Earth's military doctrine prioritizes preservation of life whenever possible. You mean you showed us mercy, Admiral Kreshtok said bitterly. We showed you respect, Park corrected. Every coalition crew member who fought against our fleet has been treated with honor. Your wounded receive the best medical care our ships can provide. Your disabled vessels are being repaired at no cost. Fleet Commander Havlex pulsed thoughtfully. This is unusual behavior for a conquering species. Because Earth is not here to conquer, Park explained. We are here to join the galactic community as equals, but we will not accept the status of vassals or slaves. High Counselor Zethron leaned forward in his chair. What exactly does Earth propose? Park activated a holographic display showing her prepared presentation. The dissolution of the coalition and the creation of a new galactic federation. Each member species would have equal representation and voting rights. No species would rule over others. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. The idea of equality between species was revolutionary to coalition thinking. Impossible, shouted Admiral Kreshtok. Some species are naturally superior to others. The strong must lead the weak. And who decides which species are strong? Park asked quietly. Combat proves strength, General Loktar declared. The Draknari have ruled because we are the greatest warriors. Park smiled slightly. General, how did that philosophy work out for you yesterday? The chamber fell silent. The human had made her point without insult or aggression. Simple logic was more devastating than any weapon. But the Draknari generals were not finished. Admiral C. Kreshtok stood and walked toward the human section. You think you are so clever, little human. But what happens when we refuse your generous offer? Then you will face the consequences of your choice, Park replied calmly. You threaten us? I inform you. Earth has prepared for every possible outcome of these negotiations. As if summoned by her words, Admiral Kim Dongjun's voice filled the chamber through the communication system. Council members, this is Fleet Admiral Kim of the Earth Defense Force. I thought you might like to see our latest arrivals. The main display changed to show space around the station. The coalition representatives gasped as 5 more human battle fleets materialized from hyperspace. The already impressive Earth Armada had just doubled in size. 10,000 ships, whispered High Counselor Zethron. Earth has 15 battle fleets, Admiral Kim announced. 5 more remain in our home. System for defense. We hope they will not be needed here. The psychological impact was devastating. Earth had not committed all its forces to this confrontation. They had reserves that exceeded the coalition's entire military capability. Unit 7749 updated its calculations rapidly. Revised analysis. Human military capacity exceeds coalition forces by factor of 3. Resistance probability now 0.001%. General Loktar stared at the display showing thousands of human warships. His warrior pride warred with tactical reality. How long have you been planning this? 50 years, Admiral Kim replied. Earth learned early that the galaxy was controlled by conquest. We decided to ensure that we would never be conquered. Ambassador Park stepped forward again. But Earth also learned that conquest is not the only path to security. We believe that cooperation creates stronger bonds than domination. Fine words, Admiral Kreshtok said bitterly. But you speak from a position of overwhelming strength. Yes, Park agreed. And that is precisely why our words have meaning. Earth could take whatever we wanted by force. Instead, we offer partnership. The debate continued for hours. Some coalition leaders, led by High Counselor Zethron, recognized that humanity offered a better future than continued resistance. Others, like the Draknari generals, clung to old beliefs about strength and dominance. Finally, General Loktar made a decision that shocked everyone. I cannot accept this new order, he announced. The Draknari 7th Legion will never surrender to aliens. He marched toward the chamber exit, followed by Admiral Kreshtok and several other hardline commanders. We will fight to the last ship rather than accept humiliation, High Counselor Zethron called after them. Loktar, this is madness. You will accomplish nothing except the death of your warriors. Better death with honor than life with shame, Loktar replied without looking back. Ambassador Park watched them leave with sadness in her eyes. She had hoped for a peaceful resolution, but some individuals could not accept change. What will you do about the resistance? Asked Fleet Commander Havlex. What we must, Park replied. Earth will defend itself and protect those who choose peace. 3 hours later, General Loktar's rebel fleet launched its attack. 200 Draknari warships, the most fanatical warriors in the coalition military, charged toward the human formations with weapons blazing. The human response was swift and precise. Advanced capture beams reached out from the Earth ships, designed specifically for this situation. Instead of destroying the attacking vessels, the beams surrounded them with energy fields that shut down all ship systems while protecting the crew. Within minutes, every rebel ship floated helplessly. In space, their crews were alive and unharmed, but completely unable to continue fighting. Admiral Kim's voice reached out to the captured vessels. General Loktar, your warriors fought with courage. They will be treated with the respect they deserve. We offer medical assistance and transport to any world of your choosing. The demonstration of overwhelming power combined with absolute restraint broke the last resistance. Even the most stubborn coalition leaders realized that humanity was not like any conqueror they had known. How do you do it? High Counselor Zethron asked Ambassador Park privately after the battle ended. How do you show such mercy to enemies? Who wanted to destroy you? Park looked out at the captured Draknari ships receiving medical aid from human vessels. Because we understand that today's enemy might become tomorrow's friend. Earth believes in redemption, not revenge. And if they refuse redemption, then we will protect ourselves and those who choose peace. But we will always offer the chance for former enemies to become new allies. High Counselor Zethron nodded slowly. Perhaps these humans really were different. Perhaps their vision of a cooperative galaxy was not just naive idealism. Perhaps it was 6 months later, the galaxy looked very different than it had before humanity's arrival. The massive space station New Geneva floated in neutral space, a joint construction project that represented the new Galactic Federation. Its gleaming halls housed representatives from 47 different species, all working together toward common goals. President Lim Hai-Sun of Earth stood at the observation deck of the station's central tower, watching construction crews from a dozen worlds install the final components of the Federation Council chamber. Humans worked alongside Zenthari, Draknari, and even former coalition enemies who had chosen cooperation over continued resistance. Madam President, said Ambassador Ro Jin-ai, approaching with a datapad in her hands. The final membership applications have been processed. The Outer Rim territories want to join the Federation. President Lim smiled as she accepted the report. The Outer Rim had suffered under Coalition rule for centuries, treated as sources of raw materials and slave labor. Now they saw hope for a better future. "What about the holdout systems?" President Lim asked. "Still resisting, but their numbers shrink every week," Ambassador Rowe replied. "The economic benefits of Federation membership are too attractive to ignore for long." It was true. The new Galactic Federation had transformed space trade within months. Earth's advanced technology, shared freely with member worlds, had created unprecedented prosperity. Medical advances eliminated diseases that had plagued alien species for millennia. Agricultural improvements ended food shortages on dozens of worlds. Captain Lee Tae-ho, now promoted to admiral and serving as Earth's military liaison to the Federation, joined them at the observation window. "Madam President, the Joint Patrol Fleet reports another pirate base has been eliminated." President Lim nodded approvingly. One of the Federation's first actions had been to create mixed-species patrol fleets to combat the criminal organizations that had flourished under Coalition neglect. Earth ships provided advanced sensors and weapons, while alien crews contributed local knowledge and cultural expertise. "Any casualties?" she asked. "None among our forces," Admiral Lee replied. "The pirates surrendered when they realized they were facing Federation ships. Most have requested rehabilitation programs rather than imprisonment. This was typical of Federation justice. Instead of brutal punishment, criminals were offered education, job training, and psychological counseling. The recidivism rate had dropped by 90% compared to Coalition methods." "Admiral," President Lim said, "what is the status of our former enemies?" Lee consulted his own datapad. "General Lokhtar has completed his leadership training program. He now commands a mixed human Draknari patrol group protecting trade routes in the Perseus sector." President Lim remembered the fierce Draknari general, who had sworn to die rather than surrender to humans. After his capture, he had spent 3 months in Federation rehabilitation programs, learning about cooperative leadership and conflict resolution. The transformation had been remarkable. "He is doing excellent work," Admiral Lee continued. "His unit has the highest efficiency rating in the fleet, and his crew loyalty scores are off the charts." "And Admiral Kreshtok?" "Teaching military history at the Federation Naval Academy. His classes on traditional Draknari tactics are very popular with human cadets." Ambassador Rowe looked surprised. "Humans are learning Draknari military methods?" "Of course," Admiral Lee replied. "Every species has valuable knowledge to contribute. The Draknari understand individual combat better than anyone. The Zenthari are masters of fleet coordination. The Vorthak have biological technologies we never imagined." This was the foundation of the Federation's success. Instead of suppressing alien knowledge, Earth encouraged its development and sharing. Federation research stations collaborated across species lines, producing innovations that no single civilization could have achieved alone. "Speaking of collaboration," President Lim said, "how is the terraforming project proceeding?" Ambassador Rowe smiled broadly. "Ahead of schedule. The Vorthak bioengineers have exceeded all expectations. They are transforming dead worlds into garden planets in half the predicted time." The Federation's terraforming program was one of its most ambitious projects. Using Earth's advanced technology combined with alien biological expertise, they were creating new habitable worlds for refugees and expanding populations. Species that had been homeless for generations were finally receiving new planets to call their own. "Madam President," said a new voice behind them, "the council session is ready to begin." They turned to see High Counselor Zethron approaching. The former coalition leader now served as the Federation's Secretary of Interspecies Relations. His transformation from conqueror to diplomat had been as dramatic as General Lokhtar's change from warrior to protector. "Thank you, High Counselor," President Lim replied. "What is today's agenda?" "The Andorian system has requested protection from slavers," Zethron explained as they walked toward the council chamber. Their world was recently liberated from coalition occupation, but criminal organizations are trying to re-establish the slave trade. President Lim's expression hardened. Slavery was one crime that the Federation would not tolerate under any circumstances. Earth's moral principles on this issue were absolute and non-negotiable. "Admiral Lee, deploy the Rapid Response Fleet," she ordered. "I want those slavers arrested and the victims freed within 48 hours. "Already in progress, Madam President," Lee replied. "Admiral Yang's task force jumped to hyperspace this morning. They should arrive at Andoria within 6 hours. The Federation Council chamber was a marvel of cooperative architecture. Representatives from dozens of species sat in carefully designed chairs that accommodated their vastly different biologies. The chamber's acoustics allowed every language to be heard clearly, while translation computers provided real-time interpretation. President Lim took her place at the central podium. Around her, alien diplomats prepared for another day of democratic governance. It still amazed her how quickly former enemies had adapted to voting and debate instead of conquest and domination. The Federation Council is now in session, she announced. Today we will address 3 major issues: the expansion of the medical assistance program, the establishment of new trade routes, and the petition for membership from the Kalos Republic. The debate that followed was spirited but respectful. Species that had been mortal enemies just months before now argued policy differences like civilized neighbors. Earth's insistence on democratic principles had created a forum where every voice could be heard. Fleet Commander Havlex, now serving as the Vorthak representative, presented the medical program expansion. The new biosynthesis technology has eliminated plague outbreaks on 7 worlds. We propose extending the program to all member systems. Admiral Yang Sung-min, recently returned from a successful anti-piracy mission, addressed the trade route proposal. The new shipping lanes will reduce travel time by 30% while providing better protection against raiders. The Kalos Republic's membership petition sparked the most interesting discussion. This former coalition client state had overthrown its oppressive government and established a democratic system based on Federation principles. They have met all membership requirements, reported Ambassador Park So-young, who now headed the Federation's expansion committee. Their commitment to democratic governance and species equality has been demonstrated through 6 months of internal reforms. The vote was unanimous. The Kalos Republic became the Federation's 48th member world, bringing their population of peaceful traders and skilled artisans into the growing alliance. As the session ended, President Lim reflected on how much had changed. 6 months ago, these same beings had been preparing to destroy Earth. Now they work together to build a better future for all species. "Madam President," said High Counselor Zethron as they left the chamber, "I have a personal question, if I may." "Of course. How did your species know this would work? How did you have such faith in cooperation when the rest of the galaxy believed only in conquest?" President Lim thought carefully before answering. "Because Earth learned long ago that our greatest strength comes from our diversity. Humans have many different cultures, languages, and beliefs. We discovered that working together makes us stronger than fighting each other. But the galaxy is much more diverse than any single world, which means the galaxy has even greater potential for strength through unity," President Lim replied. "Earth saw what was possible if all species could work together instead of against each other." They reached the observation deck again, where the view showed Federation ships from dozens of worlds working together on construction projects. Human engineers collaborated with Zenthari architects. Draknari security forces protected Vorthak biological researchers. Former enemies had become trusted partners. "Will it last?" Zethron asked quietly. "Can such different species really maintain peace?" President Lim looked out at the stars, where Federation patrol fleets maintained order and trade ships carried prosperity to distant worlds. "High Counselor, Earth spent 50 years preparing for war, but we discovered something much better than victory through force." "What is that?" "Victory through friendship. The Federation is not held together by fear or domination. It is held together..."